We welcome back to the show. My name is Elton Brobe. Let's start from the pension funds, which has been in the news for some time now. The Social Security and National Insurance Trust is this afternoon defending the sustainability of the scheme after reports emerged its reserves could be depleted by 2036. An international labor organization actuarial study reveals SSNIT may not be able to pay pensions in the next 12 years due to a myriad of issues. Addressing journalists this morning, SSNIT Chief Actuary Joseph Boku insists that the ILO work was just a projection and will actually never come to pass. Joseph Boku recounts similar projections from 2011 to 2020, which all projected similar outcomes but never materialized, showing contributors of SSNIT will be able to pay pensions by 2036 and beyond.
So the findings in the report, as I said, it gives you a telescopic view of what is possible to happen, not in certainty. It doesn't any way guarantee that what the recommendations are is going to happen at all costs. That's not what it is. So it gives you an idea that based on these assumptions, this is likely to happen, not certainty. So by the law that we operate under, that is Act 766, we are enjoined to obtain an actual valuation report from external actuaries once every 3 years. That is by law. So SSNIT does that. And we have been doing this since inception. In fact, this is about the 14th report that has come out since the operations of the SSNIT scheme. So every 3 years, we engage the services of external actuaries to produce a report about the scheme's health, about the assets, liabilities, how they are performing, and going into the future, what is likely to happen. So in the 2020 report, before I get to the 2020 external valuation reports, let me go back to 2011. Like I said, every 3 years, you are supposed to obtain this report from the external actuaries. So we have 2020, the one where we are talking about now, 2017, 14, 11, 8, and so on and so forth. So every 3 years. So let's go back all the way to the 2011 external valuation reports. So the report says, among other things, that if contribution rates were not increased in the future, the annual expenditure on benefit and administration would exceed income from contributions, and the funds from 2019 coming will just tank. So what it says was that by 2019, we're not going to have enough money to pay benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in 2024, and we have never defaulted in payments of benefits from 2019 up to date. So that is telling you what I said earlier, that it gives you an idea that you have to take some measures and make sure that it doesn't happen. That's exactly what the report is about. So this report is not different from the reports that we've obtained over the years. Like I said, it gives you an idea where you are going as a scheme, and then you take proactive measures to steer off if there is any danger ahead of you. That's exactly what it does.
It says what the ILO report shows is there is an urgent need to increase contribution of members of the scheme. Both the employer and the employee currently pays 18.5% of workers' basic salary to the scheme. SSNIT says that must go up, and they are working to get the buy-in of stakeholders ahead of a major announcement.
What has run through all these reports is the need for increase in contribution rates. In all the reports, the previous reports, that is what it says, that we need to increase the contribution rates. But ladies and gentlemen, let me mention that it doesn't come easy to increase contribution rates. It means the law has to be changed. We need to engage stakeholders. We have the employers. We have the workers as a group. We have a regulator, and then even parliament and government. So it goes through a process, and that process is a bit long. So after SSNIT has even made some of these proposals, we are now going to engage the NPRA, and then we get the stakeholders like employers, because they are also going to be affected. They are going to pay their part. And then the worker group, how do you call it? The unions. They are also part, big stakeholders. Before it goes through Attorney General's office, before Parliament, before it gets to the President, before it sends away, before the changes can be effected, before the implementation. So in order not to wait for all these processes to roll, which will take a couple of years, management of SSNIT are already taking measures to make sure that the scheme becomes more sustainable or improve on the sustainability of the scheme without waiting for just the contribution rate to be increased by law. Some of these measures include, and I'm sure you're aware, that anytime we had a platform, we let you know what we've been doing in trying to clean up our pension payroll. So since 2018, up to date, the cleaning of the pension payroll of those who are called ghosts, in quotes, who are dead and probably we are not aware and continue to pay them because they are not probably 72 years or 75 years, depending on the scheme in which they belong. We try to remove those people. What happens is that we expect that when you are 72 years or 75, every year you come to us to renew what we call the pensioner certificates, that you are alive and kicking, and so we should continue paying you. So when it gets to a point you haven't submitted that, we have to deactivate. That is, we take you out of the payroll, put you on the site, until you show up that, oh, I'm here. They will pay you all the arrears that probably we have kept. That's what we do. By engaging in that exercise, we saved about 519 million cedis so far. That has been saved, waiting for them to rise and come for their money, the so-called ghost. Nobody has shown up yet. But when they show up, we'll pay them. But nobody has shown up yet. We have introduced mass inspection, what we call the mass registration, mass inspection, and mass contribution collection exercise to increase membership of the scheme and also improve contribution collections. These are two critical factors for the sustainability of the scheme. Let me quickly mention that SSNIT scheme is partially funded. What it means is that the contributions that you and I make into the scheme is not enough to pay for the benefits you are going to enjoy in the future. It's not. It has never been enough. That is how the scheme has been designed. It has been designed such that there is always a gap, which the technical people call that funding gap. So all the monies that you bring in, and we place them on investments for the excess, we use them to pay the benefits. If there are excess left, we invest the money and bring the returns to make sure that we pay the contributions and we pay the benefits when they are due. They are not enough. And we have demonstrated this in the past, that even when you invest your contributions, full treasury bill rates until the beginning, from the time you join the scheme until you retire. And then we want to use that one to pay the benefits that SSNIT is going to pay you. You exhaust all your contributions with the interest within 11 years. This is empirical. But when it comes to the government, we've engaged the government to ensure that they are current on monthly contributions. In fact, we are guiding them to be current, and they are, as we speak, okay, I'll get there. So previously, government had issued bonds to meet arrears, and all coupon payments have been met, the bonds that they have issued. Recently, they issued a bond for 1 billion, and discussions are ongoing for bonds to be issued for the rest of the money that they owe. Monthly contributions have been paid up to January 2024. And you know that you have up to the 14th of the ensuing month to pay the previous month's contributions. So like we are in April, by now March contributions should have been paid. But government has paid fully for January 2020 this year. And even part of February has been paid. But I don't, because it's not fully paid, I don't want to dwell on it. But the point I'm making is that if government is late in payment, they are late in about a month and a half payment, if you like, because we are in April. So they are supposed to be paying in March. But March 1 has not been paid. They fully paid for January. And so we are waiting that at any moment, as they have promised, they are going to release the funds to pay on the current contribution. not on the arrears. Governments, in the previous times, legacy debts exist. That is what we are negotiating with them to get the amounts paid and paid on time so that we can have some funds for investment to make the scheme be more sustainable. We've also adopted annual reconciliation exercise with the Controller and Accountant General Department to determine government's indebtedness to the scheme. There are ongoing engagements with the government to secure settlement of contribution in arrears. That is an ongoing exercise we do every now and then. Like I said, the scheme needs fresh money every time to pay for those who are going on pension, so that when they get on pension, fresh people also come in to support. It's because of this that we embark on this SEED initiative, the SEED project that you know about. That is the self-employed enrollment drive. That is to bring in all the workers or all workers in Ghana who are not covered under the SSNIT scheme. Artisans, carpenters, masons, market women, everybody who works in Ghana here on his own, who is self-employed.
Right, so let me bring in Kwakwa Asante, who attended this news conference. But we welcome.
Thank you.
So a lot to unpack. SSNIT says that they are in good stead. Yeah. The ship is afloat.
Yes.
There's no cause for worry. But the ILO report casts a different picture.
In fact,
how do they reconcile the two?
Well, they talk about how in the last decade, for instance, there have been several of such reports that have cast such a similar light. But SSNIT has ended up being able to pay pensioners. For instance, talk about the 2011 actuarial report, which actually predicted that by 2019, SSNIT was going to go out of business. SSNIT was not going to be able to pay pensioners. But in 2019, SSNIT paid without let. And so they believe that this is just like a foreshadowing of what is to come if you don't put your things right.
Right.
And that already they are trying to put their things right in such a way that by 2036, or this 12-year period that ILO's report gives, by that time, they will have enough resources to be able to pay pensioners. They said, ultimately, there is no cause for alarm. And I don't know when you are going on retirement, but if you are retiring by 2036, you should know that SSNIT is going to pay you when it gets to the time, and so there should be no cause for concern. Of course, there are pockets of issues that is taking away the sustainability of the scheme.
Of course, and I just want us to do a better, yes, government indebtedness, there's the issue of legacy debt and how current government is in terms of its payment to SSNIT, and the issue about SSNIT's own investments and whether it is performing poorly or not, and what they intend doing to revive them.
So when it comes to legacy debt, it means that successive governments had piled on debts, that they had deducted money or monies from salaries of public sector employees and have failed to remit that amount of money to SSNIT to do prudent investment with it. So that amount of money is still laying there huge. And if you're a private company, for instance, you're not paying up to SSNIT are going to pile up penalties for you to go and pay.
Right.
So SSNIT is working, they're trying to negotiate with the government to pay some penalties as soon as practicable. So there is that. And then in terms of government's indebtedness, the current government and what they've been able to pay, government has paid up until January.
2024.
So 2024 January, government has paid all that is due to SSNIT. That means February is still in arrears, and then March is still in arrears, and they are working to clear that. And when you look at how governments run, normally that is a bit normal because of the time it takes for controller to process all that. When it comes to the investment of SSNIT, which has become such a big issue for so many people, SSNIT is pouring so much money into so much business, and they're not getting any good return on investment. So SSNIT is talking about how they are trying to revamp all their assets to try and ensure that they get the best of it. For instance, their huge investment in MTN, for instance. They're trying to sit down with MTN to realize how they can get a win-win situation so that they can rack up more money so that this projection that the International Labour Organization is putting out that by 2036 they'll be unable to pay pension is not something that is going to happen. So ultimately, SSNIT says they are working across board. They are trying to get everything right so that by 2036, this so-called quote-unquote prophet of doomsday is just not going to happen.
So the assurance here is that?
The assurance is that if you are a contributor to this scheme, go to bed without worry. 2036, 2050, 2080, SSNIT says as far as they are concerned, they are viable, they have enough money to pay you, and that even if the investment are doing not so well, by 2036, more members will have been enrolled on. They can take their money and give that to you. You have no cause for concern.
Let's pick some reactions on this matter. And Labour expert Austin Garvin has taken on leadership of the Trade Union Congress, trade unions in the country, accusing them of acting unconcerned as government indebtedness to the pension funds threatens livelihoods and the survival of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. Let me bring in Mr. Gami for a quick reaction to the assurance provided by SSNIT. Mr. Gami, it's a pleasure to have you here on the Pulse this afternoon. Also, we've also been hearing from pension experts, Mushad Abdullahi, who also has some concerns and saying that the matters may not be so clear for now. Let me bring him in for a brief chat on this matter. Mr. Abdullahi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse.
Good afternoon, and thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers.
So you heard the SSNIT's reaction to this ILO report, and they say that, this is not the first time. Such reports are always available to guide the operations of, pension funds, including SSNIT, and that it is done as part of the industry practice, and that we shouldn't be worried about it at all, and that there's no cause for worry. What is your initial reaction to the statement that came from SSNIT this morning?
Okay, so first of all, let me say SSNIT's response to the actual valuation report regards to the ILO stuff represents a very massive progress as far as transparency in Social Security administration and governance is concerned.
Right.
Ideally, this is how it's supposed to be. Whenever actual valuations are conducted, there is a need for the Social Security administration to share what the findings are for the public, at least for the stakeholders, so that we all come to understand that this is the amount of risk involved, this is the magnitude of the situation.
Right.
And so when it gets to a point where, we have to, increase contribution, or government is going to appeal that, look, they have gotten to the point where there is a need for us to increase contribution, everybody would understand. In any case, of course, they have indicated that they have putting a lot of modalities in place in order to really ensure that the depletion of the reserves has been predicted by natural value for that come to happen. Because I is predicting that if nothing happens, that is what it's saying. If nothing happens, if the predictions in the actual valuation report are not carried out, the depletion of the reserves will come in 2030. Let me take you back a little. In 2011, actual valuation was conducted. At the time, there was nothing like a depletion of reserves. We were not told anything like that. The scheme was in very good shape. Then in 2014, 3 years later, when another actual valuation report was conducted, we were told this time the scheme was not sustainable in the medium to long term, and the scheme was due for scheme reserves was due for depletion by 2042. In 2017, when actual valuation was conducted again, we were told that, remember, we warned you in 2014 that your scheme is not sustainable in the long term. You did nothing within that space. Now, the depletion date has come down to 2037. That is from 2042 to 2037. Now, we have another valuation conducted in 2020, and this time it has come down to 2036. The trend basically is telling you that we are very close, we are getting very close to point of depletion. It's just 12 years away. Now, let me make this one very clear. The recent valuation report that we are talking about actually comprises the period 2018 to 2020. The actual state of the scheme within the period 2021 to 2023 is not known, and this is the period that is going to comprise the next actual valuation report.
All right.
We have to look at what actually happened within that space. So we are going to look at 2021 to 2023. Let me pick a few parameters. Key parameter, dependency ratio. Dependency ratio is looking at the number of contributors who are contributing to support one pensioner. Not long ago, it was 17. As we speak today, it is 7. We now have 7 contributors or 7 workers contributing to support one pensioner. So dependency ratio is declining, and that is a key indicator. Let's look at investment returns as, you know, the ability of a public pension system to support, or the ability of investment returns to support the benefit payment function of a public pension scheme is measured by the real returns on investment.
Right.
I'm looking at 2021 to 2023. In 2021, SSNIT posted a real return of 8.84%. Now, in 2022 and 2023, look at what happened. Inflation skyrocketed. In 2022, inflation is averaging 31.47%, whereas in 2023, inflation is averaging 40.28%. I am not sure it's going to take miracle for the scheme to perform, for the scheme nominal return to outperform the average inflation that I'm mentioning. So it tells you that for 2022 and 2023, most likely the scheme is going to post negative real returns on their investment.
So the danger is still there. It's still lurking around. What would be your recommendation as we go forward on this matter?
I'm talking about dependency ratio. I've talked about real returns. Let's talk about administrative cost.
Right.
Administrative cost of the scheme has gone very high within that period. We are talking about what do they call it? We're talking about a lot of recruitment into the Social Security Administration, unstructured transfers and promotion of staff. The currency program that the scheme is running, SSNIT is expanding so much into that program. And I believe there will be a day when we'll be talking about whether what the result that we are getting is actually commensurating with the cost that we are putting in. Administrative cost is going very, very high. Now, you talk about government indebtedness. As I indicated, I'm talking about the period 2021 to 2023. As at 31st December 2021, the total debt of the scheme, what do they call it? The total debt of the scheme was somewhere around 9.64 billion. Out of that, government was owing 97% of that. We have been told that government has made good its indebtedness up to January.
But the legacy debt still exists.
Conspicuous. That is what is happening. So if you look at the what do they call it? The contribution rate. You look at the government indebtedness. You look at real returns on investment. You look at administrative cost, and you look at dependency ratio. It paints a very bad picture with regards to what the next actual valuation is going to look like. And remember, the next actual valuation is telling us the state of the scheme as we speak right now. So SSNIT response is a reference to December 2022. What has happened within this period? It is good. I mean, I believe if we apply the, what do you call it? If we apply the recommendations as contained in the actual valuation, for definitely we are going to go beyond 2036. But as we speak, nothing is being done. We saw it in 2011 valuation, we saw it in 2014, we saw it in 2017. We have seen it in 2020. I'm not sure we just have to sit back. We have gotten to the point where we just don't have to sit back as a country. And I keep saying that Parliament, labor unions, the worker unions, the trade union congress, the media, everybody needs to show interest.
Right.
And I mean, like, everybody needs to show interest in how the scheme is performing, because this is a program that is very, very, very important. It is feeding almost 250,000 pensioners and their families across Ghana, and the future of more than 1.8 million contributors are connected into the program. There is the need for us to keep it under watch. I'm excited that they have given the assurance that the scheme will be sustainable beyond 2036.
That is assurance this afternoon.
If we apply the recommendations as contained in the actual valuation report. And the main recommendation was that there is the need for us to begin to discuss how to increase the contribution rate from the current 11%.
All right,
I'm not very sure whether when SSNIT did, what do you call it, the press conference, they didn't mention that there is the need for us to improve the funding situation of the scheme.
In fact, what they've said that they want to increase the contribution. That is one of the strategies they want to adapt. They want to also revive some of their investments, reform some of their investment with the hope that they will get the needed returns on such investment. I'd like to say thank you very much. Mr. Moshood Abdullah. He's a pension expert on this matter. And this is a matter that is developing. And I'm sure that on Top Story, News 9's Joy News Prime, we'll have more time to go into SSNIT position on this matter because it affects me and you, especially our pension going forward. But this is the pause here on Joy News. Now let's